It was the kind of summer night that smelled like honeysuckle and damp grass, the kind of night that made you want to linger outside, even if you had nowhere to go. The air was heavy, still warm from the day, and the hum of crickets filled the silence that always seemed louder after my husband, Daniel, fell asleep. That silence had become the soundtrack of my life. I loved him, or at least I used to be certain I did. We'd been married 8 years, and in the early days he had been my whole world, funny, dependable, and tender in ways that made me feel safe. But over time the tenderness had thinned out like a shirt worn too many times. Work devoured him, and when he was home, exhaustion was the only thing he offered me. He collapsed on the couch with the TV remote in his hand, drifting into sleep before we could exchange more than a handful of words. I told myself marriage was about endurance, about commitment, but somewhere in the quiet I had started to wither. And then there was Adrian. He wasn't a stranger to me, not some mysterious figure who swooped into my life. He had been around for years, a friend of Daniel's from college who lived only a few blocks away. He had an easy way about him, the kind of confidence that didn't feel showy but steady, like he knew who he was and didn't need to prove it. When he came over to watch a game or help fix something around the house, I found myself noticing things I shouldn't have: how his laugh filled the room, how his eyes lingered when I spoke, how he asked questions Daniel never bothered to ask anymore. It started innocently enough, though in my heart I think I knew it was never innocent. He'd stay behind after dinner to help clean up, and we'd talk while the dishwasher hummed in the background. He remembered details: what I liked to read, how I took my coffee, even the fact that I hummed when I was nervous. That kind of attention was intoxicating after years of being invisible in my own home. That night, Daniel had fallen asleep early, as he always did. His soft snores drifted from the living room while Adrian and I stacked the last of the dishes. I turned to thank him, ready to say goodnight, but the look in his eyes stopped me. There was an intensity there, a weight I hadn't seen before. "Can we talk?" he whispered, as if even the walls might overhear. Before I could answer, he reached for my hand and gently tugged me toward the back door. I hesitated, glancing toward the couch where my husband lay sleeping, but Adrian's grip was steady, almost pleading. My feet moved of their own accord, carrying me out into the warm night air. The porch light buzzed overhead, casting a pale circle of light around us. Adrian closed the door softly, then turned to me with a seriousness that made my pulse race. "I can't keep pretending," he said, his voice low but firm. "I see the way he treats you, or maybe the way he doesn't. You deserve so much more than to fade into the background of your own life." My breath caught in my throat. I should have stopped him right there, told him he was out of line, told him to leave. But the words refused to come. I stood frozen, my heart hammering in my chest, torn between loyalty and longing. "You don't know what you're saying," I finally managed, though even I didn't believe it. His eyes searched mine, unflinching. "I know exactly what I'm saying. I notice you, all of you. And I can't stand by and watch you disappear." Something inside me cracked then, something I had been holding together with sheer will. No one had seen me in years, not really. Daniel loved me, I knew that, but his love had grown tired, perfunctory, like a habit rather than a flame. And here was Adrian, looking at me as though I was the only person in the world who mattered. I should have pulled away. I should have ended it before it began. But instead, I let him hold my hand a moment longer. The warmth of his palm against mine sent a shiver up my spine, and in that stolen moment, I allowed myself to feel alive again. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't even touch beyond that single clasp of hands. But something had shifted between us, something dangerous and irreversible. When I finally pulled away, whispering that I had to go back inside, his eyes lingered on me with a hunger that made my knees weak. That night I lay awake in bed beside Daniel, listening to his steady breathing. My body was still tingling, not from anything that had happened, but from everything that could. Guilt gnawed at me, but so did something else, an ache I hadn't felt in years. In the days that followed, the tension between Adrian and me grew like a storm gathering on the horizon. A text here, a fleeting glance there. Conversations that lingered too long, laughter that carried too much weight. We danced around the inevitable, pretending to ourselves that it was still innocent. But deep down we both knew better. The first time we crossed the line fully, it was almost accidental. Daniel had gone on a business trip, leaving me alone in the house. Adrian came over to help with a leaky faucet, and when the work was done, we found ourselves sitting too close on the couch, the air thick with unspoken desire. One moment we were talking, and the next his lips were on mine, urgent and desperate, and I was kissing him back like a woman starved. The guilt came later, sharp and unforgiving. But in that moment, all I felt was fire, the kind of fire I thought had long since burned out inside me. I wish I could say that was the only time that we realized our mistake and put an end to it. But that would be a lie. Once the line was crossed, there was no going back. Our stolen moments multiplied, each one more reckless than the last. I knew I was betraying my husband. I knew I was risking everything. But I also knew I couldn't stop. Adrian made me feel seen, desired, alive. With him, I wasn't just a wife or a caretaker or a shadow in my own home. I was a woman again. And that was something I wasn't willing to let go of, not yet.